Welcome back to Nostalgia Trip, the series where I look at video games from my childhood and determine whether they stand the test of time, are nothing but a nostalgic trip down memory lane, or really bad. Zool! Remember Zool? Anyone remember Zool? I can't be the only one. It was a game my mother would often rent from our local video store. Honestly, part of me wonders if maybe she enjoyed it more than I did. I remember being so fond of it that I even got up late a few evenings, sneaked into the lounge and had a little late gaming session. It was quite the light show, I can tell you that much. This is what I remember when I think of the game. Oh, as well as this. Chopper Chops Lollies. Some nice product placement. Guess product placement does work. On a serious note, I also remember the fast-paced action, the vibrant, colourful graphics, and the collectathon gameplay. Plus, Zool himself is a pretty simplistic character design that just works for me. It's Gremlin Entertainment's mascot in a ninja outfit, which is a nice touch. But the question is, does the game still hold up to the test of time? Is it purely a nostalgia trip, or is it actually horrible? Let's take a look. I mean, it can't be as bad as Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, can it? Sweets, chocolate, candy, and Chopper Chops. All jokes aside, and stupid voices, the first thing you'll notice are the abundance of colours. As previously said, it's a very bright and vibrant looking game, but it's also a very messy looking one as well. There's just so much going on screen with hundreds of items and enemies, plus both the backgrounds and foregrounds in certain worlds are just so 90s. Look at the electronic stage, for example. There's far too much going on. It's a mess. Honestly, at times it's like looking at one of those magic eye pictures. I feel like I'm going cross-eyed.
Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
The setup is rather simplistic. Zool's spacecraft crash lands on a strange planet and you have to do stuff. I've forgotten already. Basically, collect things. Zool himself looks decent enough, with his green pointy ears sticking out of his how'd you pronounce that? And it shows that sometimes a simple design can be quite memorable, although the enemies are pretty bog standard and, if I'm honest, they're pretty forgettable. You will, however, remember the massive Chopper Chops logo plastered throughout the candy world. We've been paid big bucks to put this in our game, so buy those sweets, you little shit. And when the game worlds aren't packed full of craziness, they're just bland. Like the Forest World stages, really average 16-bit greenery, which wouldn't look out of place in something like Bubsy. There is some nice parallax scrolling at times. However, the erratic movement of the camera during the pre-stage graphic is so 90s that it hurts my brain. I think the movement is random. I mean, it certainly feels like it, but the longer I look at it, the more it annoys me. So can we please get it off the screen? However, the music track playing during this is of decent sound quality. Speaking of sound, the music has that wonderful heavy bass that the Mega Drive was known for. Some people dislike it, but I've always loved it, and sure, some of that is probably due to nostalgia. I mean, after all, the Mega Drive is the first games console that I owned, and it didn't belong to a family member, such as the ZX Spectrum that I was eventually given. And it works here. It's nothing I'd really listen to outside of the game, but it's perfectly serviceable and accompanies the action well enough. Unfortunately, due to stage length and the amount of stages per world, some tracks can get a smidgen repetitive. Candy World is a prime example of this. I just didn't want to hear the world's theme anymore by the time I left. The sound effects are passable, with enemies making a delightful squishy sound when they die. Thankfully, the effect that plays during item collection doesn't get annoying, and all around it's okay. Again, the keyword is unmemorable, but not intrusive. And this might be the shortest sound and audio section I've ever written. But I'm not really sure what else there is to say. It's your very average 16-bit affair. Anyway, none of this really matters if the game doesn't play well, which brings us to The game moves really fast. You immediately whiz around the second you start moving. There's no gradual increase in speed. But it's not really the running that's the problem, but the jumping itself. It can be far too quick at times, but thankfully the camera doesn't struggle to follow. But despite this, it can still be difficult to avoid enemies due to the speed of the game and the sometimes twitchy movement. It doesn't help that Zool has the tendency to start sliding everywhere. You do eventually adapt to it, but it becomes more problematic as stage difficulty gradually increases. The basic attack is effective. By pressing A, you're able to fire projectiles with enemies having very generous hitboxes, which is all kinds of surprising. You can also press the C button whilst jumping to initiate a spin attack. This is imperative while jumping down to unknown locations, or just jumping in general actually. Some enemies can only be destroyed this way, so you'll probably find yourself spinning all over the place, especially with the insane speed of the game. You can also climb up and down walls, although it's always quicker to just jump up them, but you should be careful because sometimes there's wrong uns on the same wall. But honestly, I can be a bit of an impatient bastard at times, so I still hop around anyway. Some hazards are horrendously cheap, such as these mini speakers in the music world. I genuinely thought it was part of the background until it transformed Zool into jelly. And look at this, it even has Zool written on it. Imagine being killed by your own merchandise. One aspect that never ceased to irritate me were the checkpoints. Yes, I know that sounds very strange, but hear me out. Now, in most games, you merely pass through the checkpoint to activate it, but not in Zool. No, we have to be different in Zool. Here, you have to stop and punch it to activate it, which might not sound very difficult, and if anything, sounds pretty simple. But as previously mentioned, the movement can be so quick and slippery that at times I had difficulty activating the bloody thing, which, over time, became a groan-inducing nuisance. Levels have a decent length, but somehow can feel as though they drag on, which isn't helped by the game having 4 stages instead of 2 or 3 longer levels per world, which in turn can make the world feel as though it's outstayed its welcome. However, it's not just a case of reaching the exit to progress. You need to also collect a set amount of items before you can finish the stage, the percentile of which can be found at the status bar along the bottom of the screen. Besides the hundreds of collectibles throughout the world, there are various power-ups, which consist of things such as increasing your jump, creating a second Zool which will mirror your movement and fire projectiles, plus the usual suspects such as extra health, extra lives, and temporary invincibility, you know, the staples of the genre. To mix things up, there are boss fights at the end of each 4th stage. They can be surprisingly challenging, although the boss fight doesn't always indicate the end of a stage. For example, in the music world, I defeated the evil guitar monster, but there was still more to the level before completion. Plus, I died after beating him, and once I entered the area I fought him in, he wasn't there, and the boss theme just continued until I finished the stage. It was oddly kind. World 3's boss is a punk banana, or you know, he's into the whole punish. No. Bloody hell is he difficult. Bloody hell is he difficult. Due to the colour and speed of his projectiles, I could barely see them before I was all kinds of dead. Hang on. Wait. He's firing bits of banana at me. He's throwing his own flesh at me. It was around this time I started to get really frustrated with the game, when suddenly it all came flooding back. This was as far as I ever got as a kid. I remember getting just as frustrated back in the day as a kid, and likely gave up and just played something else, probably Sonic 2 again. Well, sod that, I thought. I'm gonna push on to see the end. So, I defeated the evil alternate banana man, and I pushed on to the next stage, which is just the generic industrial factory world, which was quite the trope in the 16-bit era. Unfortunately, this is where I just completely lost interest in the game, and that initial urge to finish it just took a nosedive. In conclusion, Zool is a decent platformer with forgettable enemies, average music and sounds, a camera that manages to keep up despite the game speed, annoying checkpoint markers, generous hitboxes, and fast albeit slippery gameplay. It all makes up a game that, while not terrible, did eventually lose my interest, and after I reached the industrial world, I wanted to turn it off and play something else. To say it's bang average is probably the best summation for it, but what of the scoring system? Well, it was a surprisingly difficult decision to make, but taking everything I've said into consideration, I have to admit that I feel that Zool is a nostalgia trip. Now, that's not to say it's a bad game, it's just not particularly that good, and it doesn't really hold up very well today. As I said a moment ago, it's average. However, if you did play this back in the day and enjoyed it, then I'd recommend booting it up and playing for 20 to 30 minutes, just for that nice taste of 16-bit nostalgia. Just don't go in expecting anything else. But what do you think? Does the game still hold up? Do you think it's solely a nostalgia trip? Comment below and let me know, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you'd like to see more. But until next time, stay safe and I'll catch you later.